Okay, guys, welcome. Today we are going to talk about morality. Morality as we consider it in our culture now versus morality as we're going to consider it later on. Let's draw some plants over here. Let's have a little animal. And let's draw root systems. Okay, guys. Right now, we consider morality to be something about good, bad, God, the devil, genetics, just a genetic crapshoot. Your parents were 80% evil, 20% evil. This combined with the other things we're interacting with has come out with an equation of how good and evil you are. Some of the people that go and shoot up schools, they just didn't win the lottery or they were abused. Somebody was shooting up schools in their home. They learned it through habit, through the environment. This is all garbage, and we need a new system. A lot of us are walking around going, hey, if you ask me a logical question, I'm going to say, hey, a lot of that religious stuff, we have dinosaur bones. The world isn't 4,000 years old, and the Bible is hardlining all of these things. All the major religions have come out and said, hey, Adam and Eve weren't the first people. They were real people. For some reason, that's important. If they weren't the first people, then they mean nothing, and the Bible is just crap. It's great stories. I love the stories. And it's great historical recording. So beautiful to be able to have these things, to have cities that turned homosexual, and to have a description of what these people were eating. Historically, this is so beautiful that we know. We've documented these people becoming amoral over and over again, and exactly what they were eating, how they were living, what the society was like. We have a bunch of people with zero plants and animals living in one place, and all of a sudden they turn homosexual and bad. Okay, well then we would have to start connecting those things, right? If we're detectives and we are trying to figure out to diagnose and repair humanity, then we would look at that repetitive evidence and say, oh God, we've done this before, and the exact same thing happened in Jerusalem, which Jesus is not recorded. However, the Jerusalem of that time is recorded in the Bible, as well as Pliny the Elder, as well as all kinds of other extremely reliable things. Jesus appears to be pretty much made up, but all the rest of this is factual, and these people are obsessive about these recordings. It was a relatively new thing, but they were saying, look, we're the most advanced people. We've got a written language, which is super cool. And, they recorded all this data for us. Breathtaking. So important. So important. I love the stories. I couldn't, I could tell you 10 favorites right now. But, as far as morality goes, as far as today's little lesson goes. We have to get past that. Everybody's going, hey man, I'm not feeling that. If you get cancer, you might go, hey, I'm going to pray to somebody. If you get in prison, all of a sudden you might find God, but if you get back out, you're probably going to lean a little bit more towards logic, towards trying to find something that makes more sense. We've disproved Christianity. We've disproved our belief system, and so we need a new one. Science is not in a battle with God. That's stupid. Both of those things are apparent. For a Christian to say science doesn't exist, or for a scientist to say God doesn't exist, those are big statements. Those are big, stupid statements. We can all feel that there is a congruency in nature. You go through a bunch of different crazy things in your childhood and go, wow, that wasn't necessary, that wasn't necessary, that wasn't necessary, that wasn't necessary. And then one day all those things tie in to one thing and you go, hey, it feels like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And all of those random feeling experiences are exactly the information that I need, the skill sets that I need for this one existence that I have no clue. I think most people would feel. It feels as though things are a little bit too organized to be random, and yet the God that we previously had, where we're going to buildings that have no energies in them and asking, men that are commonly pedophiles to speak to a wish genie in the sky, we got to get rid of that part, and we need something new, not to grasp onto as though we're going through this through this life as victims and need a new Jim Jones, a new cup of Kool-Aid to drink. That's stupid. We need to return to what we had before these cults came along and screwed up our systems. What we had before that was a relationship to nature. We had plants and animals growing where we lived. We pooped in the soil. The microorganisms from our poop went into the soil. The plants put sugar into the soil. That made a genesis of microorganisms. This guy ate from the plants and animals. The microorganisms came back. You are devoid of microorganisms, and so you're seeing asexuality, a lack of happiness, a lack of motivation, a lack of contentment, eventually the difficulty or inability to perform sexually, because all of those things are made by microorganisms. So every time we separate ourselves from our life cycle and start putting the microorganisms in our poop into the water treatment plant, we die. It's not an immediate process. A human can actually live without microorganisms, but your body is making evolutionary decisions based on that lack. One of the biggest ones is your body is saying, hey, there's no microorganisms, there's not enough oxygen, there's not enough water without chemicals in it, there's not enough food on the tree, there's not enough protein on the hoof, on the animals inside of your fence where you live, and so it believes you're going to salt the earth, so your body's trying to put you in the dirt. So, what we're calling amorality, what we're calling the subconscious, the superego, the id, these evil things that are inside of you, the devil, these evil things that are supposedly inside of you are actually a system that's trying to get your body into the soil. I exercise for 3 hours a day, but I don't have to push myself to exercise for 3 hours a day. My body wakes up, it gets me up, hey buddy, it's time to do the cardio, and it starts sending up dopamine and serotonin, adrenaline, so that by the time I get on the bicycle, my body's already running. It's already excited. There's already adrenaline in my veins. A dead person is going to describe a wall. I'm trying to run. My body's telling me it's time to sleep. It's time to be lazy. I'm going to keep trying to run and keep trying to run. And 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, the body is going to cave, and it's going to finally give us this adrenaline. It's going to finally give us endorphins. It's finally going to give us energy to actually run. A living person, a person who's living with their life cycle, and so their body is not trying to put them into soil, is not fighting them. It's encouraging them. We've got this entire country, 341 million people, and all of the people that identify as runners identify as this exact same scenario of fighting against the body. And then 15 minutes later, the body finally concedes and lets you run. That's a dead person's perspective. America is 341 million zombies, so everybody's saying, hey, this is humanity. Look, he's the same as I am. But we've duplicated our lifestyle. We've duplicated, every single city is the same thing. When you go to a city and the people say, hey, I've been here 30 years, and we're the weird city. We got to write, keep Dallas weird, keep Saginaw weird, keep Denver weird, keep Laramie weird, because we're the weird city. We have the art district. We're the city that has the art district, and then you go into every other city, and they have the exact same sign, exact same art district. Everything is identical. Everything is identical. Over and over and over. When you actually travel, but don't just pass through someplace, when you actually spend some time in another city, and they go, hey, this is our city, this is the place to be because this is our little art district, and then you go, ha, that's exactly like that town's art district, that's exactly like the next town's art district, that's exactly like the, over and over and over and over. The people that designed our school system literally said, they went to another country and said, that country was saying, hey, here's how you suppress the people. Hey, here's how you make stupid people. You line the desks up, you ring the bells, this is the size of the class, you have grades. The grades are going to go with you for the rest of your life, so every moment you're just inspecting your own actions, feeling guilt and shame and weight, responsibility for all this stupid crap, so that by the time you get out of this brainwashing program, nothing new is going to come out of this thing. They literally said, we're not going to make poets, we're not going to make preachers, we're not going to make hiring people. These schools are going to make slaves. And they banged it up. They did a great job of making slaves. But you're walking around with religious guilt. We got to free you of that. Your morality is going to be relative to this space. We can move this anywhere we want to. I want you to imagine this as a sliding scale. We can move this line anywhere we want to, and we are going to see relative morality. Because morality is simply the urgency at which this guy feels he needs to get his body in the soil, which is relative to the number of humans versus the number of human energies. And so, if we take a person that lives in a place where there's some human energies, so they're feeling some urge to build human health equity, to build energy equity, to build equity in your home, financial equity, to prepare for a tomorrow, and we increase the number of this or decrease the number of this, we're going to see this level of what used to be referred to as morality change. If you've ever done something and then go, boy, that's really, I don't identify with that action. If you've ever stolen something, if you've ever told a secret, if you've ever told on somebody to get out of trouble and then after the fact gone, boy, I don't really identify with that action. I need you to understand your body is trying to end your life by putting you in bad situations and applying guilt so that you will give in to this. Hey, this is a necessary thing. I've become a bad person. If you become a 300-pound person and you've just got slabs of meat just hanging off of your face, hanging off of your body, you're going to be somebody that's going to give into. One person might say, hey, I'm having a health problem. I have to reverse these things right now. Another person might be walking around with a bunch of religious guilt, guilt about eating habits, guilt about their morality, and that person is going to give into a health situation that might have otherwise been avoidable. They might have just been able to cut down on the carbohydrates, get a little exercise, and then just be perfectly trim. We're going to see this line moving depending on the number of human energies available in relation to the number of the species. So if you've got 10 people at your house and all of the plants are food for different species, cow food, insect food, if we don't actually have weight in fruit in these trees that are fruit specific to humans, if we don't, if we've got cats and dogs, a bunch of cats and dogs, but we don't eat cats and dogs, those are consumers as well. So those are being weighed over here, increasing the number of consumers versus increasing if we've got rabbits and we eat rabbits, then that would be over here. If we've got rabbits but we don't eat rabbits, then we're just increasing the number of people that are eating. And so that would increase the urgency over here. The threat is that we're salting the earth. The threat is that we're going to kill future generations. The threat is that if we make the land incapable of hosting us, then it's all over. So your genome has a genetic code built in, as does every other species on this planet, built in so that we don't salt the earth. So we automatically start reducing the species. If we don't reduce the species, if we get really good at a weird kind of healthcare where no one's healthy, but we're actually just keeping people, consistently keeping people from actually entering the soil. These people are in horrible health. They're barely mobile. No self-esteem, no happiness, no sex, no contentment, no motivation, no joint health, no clean spinal fluid, in the brain, no clear thought because your brain is sitting in acid, but this person finally has a heart attack. We've got the paddles. Wow, we're going to bring them back to life. We're going to keep them in the hospital for 2 days and make sure they don't have another one. Keep them attached to things in case they die again. We can bring them back into tax-paying status, into mass consumer status, which is dead but just above the soil. We've gotten good at that. Not good at health care. That'd be a bit of a stretch for America, anyways. We're just keeping this person above the soil. We're just keeping this person consumed. We're not repairing their health. We simply avoid it. And they might go another 30 years. If they died, nobody'd go, what? What? This 300-pound person, this overweight person with no happiness and no sex and no health whatsoever died. Okay, that's acceptable. However, if we can get them keep them above the ground for 2 days, they might go another 30, 40 years consuming. However, the need, the urgency for their body to reduce the number of the species set by the number of the species versus the energy for those species can be pretty high, and that's when we're going to see people start snapping and shooting up schools, or something we would consider a morality issue currently. And that's just not what's going on. We can increase, we can control, we can increase or decrease the amount of the urgency to reduce the number of species by simply increasing this one or decreasing the number of the species. Amazing people. Applying happy drugs, applying prescription methamphetamines to this guy, he might become otherwise occupied. He might have other problems. We're on meth now, so we're going to have some other problems. The morality is not going to change. The need to reduce the number of the species is not going to change. The apparent morality is not going to change. The bad behavior isn't necessarily going to go away. We cannot remove the urgency to reduce the number of the species. We can move it from one thing to another. You imagine somebody that's on drugs, you're a parent and you're saying, oh man, I feel responsible. My kid is a bad kid. We didn't raise a bad kid. We didn't teach these things. We didn't example these things. We didn't do drugs in front of them. We didn't expose them to people that were doing drugs. I don't know how I failed my child. This isn't on you, nice people. In a morality aspect, it is on you, depending on the number of the species and the number of energies for those species. So I'm not trying to remove guilt. I want to double your guilt. I want to double it. If before you felt some shame, let's double your shame and then turn that into action. The church separated us from our relationship 4,000 years ago. I want you to remove the religious guilt. That doesn't exist. You don't have a morality inside of you. You've accidentally passed the sins of the father. Pass on to the child. That's not your issue. However, I don't want to remove it. Let's double it. And let's turn it into something you do with your hands. The church broke it. You didn't break it. The church broke it. The billionaires figured out, hey, this is wildly profitable. We can duplicate this. We can exacerbate this and make super consumers. This guy's going to super consume to try to get his body to die and get into the soil. He's going to encourage that activity with other people. That's not religious guilt, morality, blah, blah, blah. Let's double up on our feeling of responsibility, and then let's let that out of our body. That's what art is. You identify a feeling, and then let it out of your body with action. The morons currently would tell you if you're mad at somebody, write it down on a piece of paper and then burn the paper, some silly crap like that. That's not a metric. Psychology does not exist. This is what we're dealing with. The lack of the microorganisms that make happiness and motivation, contentment. GLP-1 is the contentment feeling that is manufactured naturally when we are in our life cycle, full of microorganisms and with clean spinal fluid in the brain. This fluid has to be changed out 100% every day, or your brain is floating in acid, and all you can feel is tension, anxiety, fear. Imagine what your brain would feel like if it were floating in waste. Amazing people. But the fluid that's manufactured and changed out every single day is only manufactured by microorganisms. Currently, you're pooping 10 billion microorganisms every day, necessary for all of these 1,000 different jobs, but you're pooping them into a water treatment plant that's using nasty chemicals to kill 100% of them. We used to have them going into the soil, meeting the sugar, exploding, and now we've got this never-ending system of microorganism replenishing. And now every day, 10 billion are going into the water treatment plant, into the water treatment plant, into the water treatment plant, and that's where your level is. 10 billion, 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 and then you're eating preserved foods. Preservative is antibiotic. It's the exact same thing they're using to murder the microorganisms in the water treatment plant. You're ingesting that with your food all day, every day. So your morality has absolutely nothing to do with whether you're a good or bad person, whether your mom was a good or bad person. Your mother is suffering from the same thing in the same system that you are. And any one of us can start taking actions to repair these things. All we have to do is get off the antibiotics and return these things to your yard. Now understand this, I'm not saying this is the easiest thing. If you're in the city and if you grow something in your front yard that's taller than 4 inches, they're going to take your house from you eventually. They're going to give you a ticket, but if you do this 3 times, they're going to take you to court. If you grow something in your backyard and your neighbor looks over the fence and says, hey, that's going to cause rodents in my house, understand these people are dead. You're going to need a little bit of space between them. Our bodies are communicating with pheromones, with molecules, with electricity, and so if you've got neighbors that are going to be super aggro, if you attempt to restore the human life cycle, you're going to need a little bit of space either way. But the property outside of the city is the least expensive and least governed property. And so that's not a bad thing. getting away from those zombies, getting into an area where you're allowed to have some chickens and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to do this in an apartment. Nice people, you're going to need a little bit of soil, and you're going to need the freedom to catch water, to have a body of water outside. Your body is measuring human energies, which include oxygen, water, a body of water free of chemicals, food inside of the plants, alive. The body's not measuring a grocery store. That food's dead anyway. That food's full of antibiotics anyway. The body's not measuring a farm. The body is measuring the fence inside of which you are spending time and deciding if you live or die. The body is measuring that same space and deciding if you're going to express procreation with your body. Your body's genetics is an expression, it's a language. And we can read that. If you've got a female with male height, male hands, male feet, male lips, male butt, male nipples, male eyes, that female has no right to procreate. But if we take the exact same female and repair her, now her body's genetic expression, genetic language is going to say something else to the opposite sex. We don't have a problem of bad people. We have a problem of this gap here. All we have to do is close the gap. Guys, that's all the time I got. You guys are awesome. You guys are super important to me. And I'm going to do this again